Hello and welcome back to the Whatnauts Captain's Log. My name is Kyle Springer and I am joined by Melissa Wilkinson. Melissa, we got a special episode today. Talk about it.
We do.
Eat, vision, and snack.
Yes. Every year around this time, we do a taste test snack attack episode of some kind. In past episodes, we have bought Japanese Kit Kats or a bunch of different Pocky or freeze-dried astronaut food. But this year, we decided to make our own food for this for the first time. And we are recording on Easter, and we could have made eggs or ham or any traditional Easter food, but no. We did hot dogs. Welcome. Yeah. Oh, we also officially named this series of episodes as Eat, Vision, and Snack.
Named
and this year's edition,
TV pilot Heat, Vision, and Jack. Yeah. You can hear us talk about on the Pilots Club, our Patreon exclusive podcast.
Yes, pay $3 to hear that reference. This particular year's edition, I have titled, If You Can Dream It, You Can Dog It.
Okay. If you can dream it, you can dog it. I don't know if I have a subtitle for my hot dog here. But I
didn't say you couldn't share mine. That was the title for both of us. That's not the title of my dish. That's the title I give this episode as a whole.
There you go. Well, yeah, I say we do a hot dog live hot dog reveal on the Captain's Log here.
All right.
So yeah, let's do it both at the same time. This is my breakfast hot dog.
Oh, cute. Look at that. Look at those scramblies. Yours does have eggs.
Mine does have eggs, yeah.
Very nice.
Know probably watching this on the YouTube version, who knows how well these are presenting or not.
Yours is plated very well. You've got a square plate. That means class.
Sure, hopefully, except when you need to microwave something and the corners get stuck and it won't spin. But what is the hot dog that you have created?
I have made fancy little hot dog tartlets. This is hot dog in a puff pastry shell with caramelized onion and brie cheese.
That sounds great. That sounds awesome. So yeah, I went with the breakfast theme. I actually have a barat wrapped in bacon.
Nice.
Bun is French toasted.
Wow.
And then I have scrambled eggs, and I bought some fancy maple syrup to go on top of it.
That's truly fancy.
This is Crown maple syrup, bourbon barrel aged. It says artisan quality, robust flavor, limited.
That's almost
edition,
a liquor,
right? That's kind of what attracted me to it. I was like, ooh, bourbon maple syrup. I can get down with that. I think this is from New York. Some place in New York, I think is what I read somewhere on this. Yes, Dover Plains, New York.
They got trees up there in the Northeast.
Yeah, believe it or not, right outside the city, right? There's lots of trees in New York. So I am opening this guy to see what this is like. He has a whole.
I tried to cut my hot dogs into batons. Without realizing that they would just curl up. That's what happens when you cook a hot dog.
Yeah.
So they turned into like curly little wormies here.
That's still fun.
We should have gone all the way and made one of those hot dog octopus.
Oh, yeah. That would have been fun. I've only ever seen those in MMA and not in real life.
Ah! It's easy to do. All you need is knife.
Yeah. Well, as per any kind of eating content on YouTube or podcasts, you might hear us munching on our hot dog creations here. I know we'll try and eat away from the mic so it's not just mouth sounds the entire time. But yeah, we'll be munching on these as we talk about them a little bit more, our thought process, what it was like making these literally right before the podcast. So let's dig in. Melissa, let me ask you this. Where did you get the idea or inspiration for your hot dog creation?
I wanted to see what was the fanciest thing I could do with just a regular hot dog.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't go for a hot dog alternative like you with your bratwurst. I mean, it is like the slightly higher end of hot dog that comes like 5 in a pack instead of like 10 in a pack. The package is black, so you know it's high end. It's DC Black Label hot dogs. 100% beef. I like a hot dog. I like the rich, savory flavor to it, the salt.
Mm-hmm.
There used to be a local restaurant called Dogs and Fries that just did hot dogs and french fries.
Oh,
and they'd have, I would go and I would splurge on like the fancy fries with all the stuff added on them. Yeah. And I'd go for a simpler dog. And sometimes I would get just a plain hot dog with only caramelized onions. I really liked how those two went together. So I wanted some of that here.
Little bit of salty, little bit of sweet, right?
Mm-hmm.
Since I do have all of this maple syrup, I have a napkin to wipe all my fingers off. Yeah, I've been to a couple restaurants that were like hot dog focused.
Yeah.
Right. Nothing that was like super fancy hot dogs. It was more like, hey, they're super cheap and you can get a lot of them. Is what they were. But yeah, I was working through a couple ideas. I was like, can I do an Asian inspired hot dog? Can I do a Mexican style hot dog? And I think the ideas I came up with was, the breakfast one, a Hawaiian one. So it would have like pineapple and barbecue sauce and stuff like that. Sure. Yeah. I could have just made a little spam hot dog. And then I was trying to come up with a dessert hot dog. And my idea for that, I don't feel like it was as fleshed out as like my breakfast one here. But I was trying to do like, what if I did, because when you came down to Oklahoma, we took you to Bricktown Brewery.
Yes.
And they serve sweet potato fries, and you can get caramel on them. And so my thought was that, like, why don't I also get some sweet potato fries, put that on the hot dog, and drizzle caramel on it, which still might be good, but I didn't think it had that extra like behind it. Like, what if I French toast the bun, right? How fun is that?
If I was to make a dessert hot dog, it would just be a banana. Banana in bun.
I guess that could work. At that point, do you put like an actual like beef hot dog in the midst of an ice cream sundae?
No. Turned out pretty good. I did a test run earlier this week where I first tried making it like a fold over, and that had trouble like cooking all the way through, and it like burst out of the seams anyway. I'm like, this is a display piece. I should make it open faced. So have these funny little tartlets.
That works. Now, I know in your spare time you like baking and doing that stuff. Do you tend to experiment at all with more savory baking?
I like to make bread. I like to make focaccia bread and pizza dough from scratch.
There you go.
But I haven't done like a cheddar scone or anything like that yet, or like a lemon olive oil cake.
I gotcha.
That's on the more savory end of what can still be considered a sweet.
Yeah. I think for us, and it's not even really baking. But I in when I was still in college, I used to get the like Marie Calendar little pot pies that they had, and I really liked those. And so when I moved in with my partner, we tried like, what if we make our own, but we make them like small, like cupcakes size.
Yeah.
So we've been trying that, but we're still not making our own dough. We're just getting like, what if we just get, croissant roll dough and use that stuff like that. But those have been fun, and we're starting to think like, ooh, we could do like buffalo chicken ones, or we could do ones like this, ham and cheese. We could do all kinds of stuff. So
You can pot pie anything. I don't think we're pot pieing enough stuff.
Right? More pot pies.
Yeah.
Pot pies. Yeah. There you go. I also did a test run with these I didn't make this breakfast dog, but I was like, what are the ways that I can potentially cook the brat? I still hadn't had my ideal nailed down. So we just did a regular like hot dog night just to see like, we like cooking this on the stove? Should we do it in the air fryer? How should we do that? But it had to have been like a week before or something. We were having breakfast for dinner, and I decided to make pancakes. And Melissa, I had a kitchen nightmare. Well, kind of. I don't know if I would really call it a nightmare, but that's where my mind went. Like, I should ask about kitchen nightmares on the podcast. Because what happened for me is I was putting the ingredients in to make the batter, and then I put in the milk, realizing that I put in way too much milk. I put in like triple the amount of milk that I needed, and so I was just like, how did I do that? Like, what is wrong with me?
That is a major mistake to make. I don't know how you triple the milk.
Yeah, and so then I was like,
you'd know in your soul if that was too much milk.
Yeah, and it's like it was those things like immediately once I like tipped it over to pour it out, I was like, oh, this is way too much, but I can't stop now. I just have to go. I'm stuck. And so yeah, I had to end up being like, all right, let's put in 2 more times the amount of Bisquick and eggs and do all of this. I just had to make a shitload of batter. Make a bunch of pancakes, have a bunch of leftover pancakes, stuff like that. It's like
you're doing a fundraiser church breakfast for just the 2 of you.
Mm-hmm.
There's that many pancakes.
Exactly.
Go around the corner, give some to Jeff Luigi.
Right. Jeff, made your pancakes. Make a pizza pancake. I don't know. Do what you want. But yeah. So I was curious because I know you like to bake. Have you had a kitchen nightmare or something you would describe as a kitchen nightmare? Have you blown something up? Has something caught fire?
No.
Did you
I'm a professional.
Too much ingredients? Wow. Okay. Shut down.
I'm generally fairly careful with what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
I've burned myself several times. Just like little, I don't know if you can kind of see it. I've got like just a couple marks on my arms just from like having my glove on and everything and grabbing a pan and then just sort of like moving my arm like 2 degrees the wrong way. Yeah. So I've been hurt, but the food has always been fine. I have been in the middle of making a cake and thinking, this isn't baking how I thought it was supposed to bake. What's wrong? And realizing that my oven was broken. Like I've got a top heating element and a bottom heating element. I've got a very old oven. Sure. I like my apartment, but boy, are my appliances older than I am. Wish I could replace them. And like the bottom like heating coil had burned out. So I had to figure out, I had to like over bake the top of the cake to get the bottom baked and then like saw the top of it off.
I gotcha.
So that was unfortunate that I had to realize that in the middle of like, I have to bake this cake to like take to somebody's birthday today. I need to have this done.
Yeah. That's interesting because my partner's old apartment also had this like ancient oven. And that thing was so hot. It burned with the fury of 1,000 suns. Just absolutely, like, you could turn it up to 100 and cook something in 10 minutes. And it's just like, I just need to learn to not follow the directions on stuff. But I think the closest encounter I've ever had to a kitchen nightmare was actually not my own. When I
You saw it through the window.
Almost. When I first got to college, I was still super involved in my church at the time. So I knew people down where I went to school in our like sister church, so to speak. So I was able to kind of skip the whole like freshman dorm experience and just go straight to, I live in an apartment. But it had to have been like the week or so before I moved into the apartment I moved in, and one of my roommates was cooking something. I forget what it was, but it caught fire and went to like try and put it out. He made it worse. Like all this stuff, he had to go get the extinguisher out in the hallway and like all of that stuff. But by the time I had gotten in there and moved in, they had like replaced the cabinetry because that had started to catch fire, all of that stuff. But then we had just this big black mark on our ceiling, like right above, like everything else had burned, but we replaced the kitchen cabinets.
That's so haunted. Just
Right,
a big black mark on the ceiling.
Yeah,
That's a ghost
exactly.
photograph. They pass around it in email forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
One time my mom was cleaning out some cabinets and she took like a bunch of little plastic spices, like little spice containers that were in a cabinet, put them in like a big Tupperware, just needed to get them out of the way while she was cleaning. So she put them in the oven, which was turned off, and forgot she had them in there. And then the next time she turned the oven on, they started to melt. She caught it eventually. Everything was fine. But she didn't throw away those spices after that. We just still used paprika that was in a slightly melty, warbly plastic little bottle.
Burnt
which
paprika,
I don't think is healthy.
Paprika, right? Yeah, no.
Truly smoked paprika. Which is, I'm sure that the spices were fine. I feel like if you roast a spice, it could only get better. But like,
Sure.
do not have food out of a melted plastic container. In hindsight, that might be what kills us all. Those little jars.
Plastics, yeah.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who knows? Who knows? So, Melissa, your little pastry thing. What's the verdict? How do you think you did? Is there something you think you could improve on?
I got the pastry cooked well, pretty through. You can. I'm showing you its butt.
Hot dog down.
It's on a plate. It's fine. I got it cooked like bottom and top. I think I managed to cook the pastry through okay. It's got like real beautiful layers, a real crisp to it. It's crispy, it's sharp, it's crunchy.
Good. Yeah.
Put an egg wash on there. I think I do the hot dogs a little differently. If I was to do this again, like as an appetizer for a party, I might do them in like little muffin cups.
Yeah.
So that it has like a definite shape to hold on to.
Yeah.
It won't get as warped. And maybe I'll cut the hot dogs up really tiny. Mince some hot dogs.
Yeah, or even just small, like quarter size.
Yeah, like a coin.
Yeah.
I've learned that because this isn't bad that they sort of warmed up, curled into little parentheses, but it's not as elegant as the straight hot dog batons I tried to cut them into.
I gotcha. Um, yeah, I really enjoyed mine. I think because I used a fancier, like more authentic maple syrup, it's more liquidy than your like Mrs. Butterworth's like thick stuff. So
True.
it did kind of fall off my thing, but I still had that good flavor as it like soaked into the bread and stuff like that. Um, I was thinking about it like before we came on the podcast of even like how could I improve this? Like what is something I could make it even fancier? And I was like, what if the bacon wrap hot dog was also dipped in like cinnamon sugar stuff like that, so it's candied bacon, stuff like that. I think that would be fun. But I was actually surprised at how well the bun got French toasted. That was my one like
Nice.
I don't know how this is gonna work.
They don't tell you how to do that. A French toasted hot dog bun is real divorced dad food.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I'm sitting here in my dad hat with my like bacon wrapped brat in a French toast bun. It was good though. But that's the thing, is like you don't know if the bread will work with the kind of flavor of the French toast, or if it'll be too soft, or who knows what. But I think mine worked out pretty well.
Good.
We were debating on if we should do like bacon bits on top or like a strip of bacon beside it, but then we landed on bacon wrapped. Why not? So good. So
you can bacon wrap most things.
Sure
I'll tell you, I get anxious when a dish has more than 2 meats in it, though. I was
so
at my parents'
you're
house.
Not a turducken fan, then.
Oh, I love a culinary challenge like that. If you did the feat of producing a turducken, I'd sure try it. But I was at my parents' house and my mom's rooting around in the freezer and she's like, "Do you want something for dinner? We have a frozen pizza. It's the carnivore one. There's like pepperoni and salami and bacon and ham." And I'm like, it can't have that many. Like it.
Well, Melissa, it can.
It's too much. And she's like, "Do you want me to take some of the meat off?" And I'm like, "No, it's already on there. I'll just not eat the pizza." It's overkill for me. Like, I like when a burger has bacon on it, or maybe in rare cases a bacon contemporary, such as a fancy burger that maybe is like a pork belly or something on it. But
sure, yeah,
I don't need like a burger that also is pulled pork on it or something. You know, like those really extreme things. I'm fearful of it. I don't know what the consequences will be if I engage in something like that.
My favorite pizza that I've ever had was a meat lover's pizza. And I like meat. A meat lover's pizza is fine, but it's not my favorite, my go-to. But this was a fancier pizza restaurant, and this one seemed interesting. But also, my cousin at the time was like, "Hey, do you want to split something with me?"
They're not your cousin anymore.
My cousin, at the time asked me if he wanted to. No, but yeah. So we split this giant meat lovers pizza, but it had the works, and since it was out in Montana. It had like strips of like really good steak on it. Pepperoni and ham, Canadian bacon, whatever you want to call it. It was just really good. We enjoyed that one quite a bit. but not a 3 meat fan. We have the 3 body problem. Melissa has a 3 meat problem.
The 3 meat problem. I am a meat lover, but monogamously.
Sure. Yeah.
One meat at a time, please.
Yeah. No fancy orgies. no meat orgies.
Right. I'd take like a fruit orgy or a vegetable orgy, a bread orgy. Which is the theme for my birthday this year. I hope everybody's excited to come to my bread orgy.
That would actually be kind of interesting if you could make 3 different kinds of dough, make like a big long string of the dough, and then like roll them all up together and bake that. So it's like a big twist.
I don't think breads are that cross compatible. Like, no. I think a brioche and a sourdough need different things. I love a bread sandwich with bread in the middle.
You're
a bread lasagna.
I was gonna say you're more a fan of the like Big Mac style, where it's like it's two layers, right, with that extra bun in the middle.
I'd love if there was a secret Big Mac where you can sub out the middle bun for a McGriddle. not a whole McGriddle, but the McGriddle bun with the syrup
with
in
the
it.
maple syrup.
One
in it,
McMuffin, a single muffin in the middle.
It's a new secret
Why
menu
do I have
item.
to have? Right. Why do all 3 buns have to be from the same bread family? Mix it up. Put just a stack of the shortbread cookies in the middle.
Did you hear this whole thing about how McDonald's is gonna start to sell Krispy Kreme donuts at their locations by 2026 or something like that?
Why take that long? I did hear about this, just in that it was a single question at bar trivia this week. Name the donut company that McDonald's will start to sell.
I think I think they're starting it now at certain locations, and then they're slow rolling it out over the next couple years. But that's a thing that happened. I think we'll get a spike in donut burgers, right? I'm kind of interested to see if McDonald's themselves lanes in on that. Like, can I just get a
or maybe they
burger?
Just won't lean away. They won't tell you that you can, but if you ask, they're like,
they'll do it. Yeah.
Okay. If you know what you're getting into, sir, we can prepare this.
Sir, we got another one.
I did go through a McDonald's drive-through yesterday. I chose that instead of the Meat Lovers pizza. Don't know if it was a healthier choice, but it was only 1 meat instead of 4. Me getting a 1/4 pounder with cheese.
Right. Yeah.
On the digital screen, after I made my order, there was an anime Mayor McCheese saying thank you. Or perhaps Domo arigato. He was very cute. I liked seeing him. Yeah.
Arigato. Good stuff. But yeah, I had a blast with our little eat vision and snack that we got here. I know earlier on in the year we were trying to work out what we were gonna do, and we were even thinking like, do we give ourselves the same theme and go off of that? And we were like, what kind of hot dog would a wizard make?
I told my mom we were doing this, and I asked her, Mom, if you could dream of any kind of hot dog in the world, any kind of special fancy hot dog, if you could do absolutely anything to it, what would you do?
Yeah. And
she thought for a minute, and she said, I'd add a slice of cheese.
Yeah. Good old cheese dog.
Just a Kraft Singles all my mom needs.
Yeah. There you go. Did you spend the past couple weeks like watching YouTube videos to be like, what kinds of hot dogs are out there? Did you look for inspiration in any certain place?
I guess I could have. Beef, turkey. Those are the kosher and not, don't know. There is a book called Raw Dog that's about the history of hot dogs by Jamie Loftus. I haven't read it, but Jamie Loftus has been on podcasts several times to promote this book. I listen to a lot of podcasts that are not hot dog centric, but have had hot dog specials.
Melissa, you could tell me that you listen to a podcast that was focused around hot dogs, and I would believe you.
She's been on Podcast The Ride a couple times. Podcast The Ride being theme park based.
Sure.
Hot dogs are a common theme park food. One time they did an episode called The Hot Dog Hullabaloo, where Podcast The Ride's 3 co-hosts did a challenge comparing all of the Disneyland and Disney California Adventure hot dogs to each other. And it's these 3 men going around the parks. Everywhere they go, they order a single hot dog and cut it into 3 pieces. So that over the course of the day, each of them is only having the equivalent of like 2 hot dogs.
Sure.
A moderate amount of hot dog for an adult man to have in a day. But just a little like 2-inch section of the middle of a hot dog a grown man eats.
Interesting.
It's beautiful to imagine.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it's related to that book, but I did see some YouTube video on like the history of different kinds of hot dogs out there. I saw a bunch of people making their version of like a Mexican hot dog, or just like, here's how to like make them at home. Here's the best kinds of meat you want. And here's how you get the little casings for the hot dogs. And I was like, well, I'm not going to go that far into all of this. But yeah, there was, different like chili cheese dogs, stuff like that. Different ones with like onions and sauerkraut and relishes and stuff like that. And I was like, well, I don't like onions. So I was like, breakfast dog. That sounds good.
If I could we're not talking about burgers, but if I was to design my perfect burger, it would have both caramelized onions and crispy onions on it.
Okay.
I'd call it the ogre.
The ogre. Ogres are like onions.
We've heard this. We all have.
Yeah. I've been saying this most of my life. Good stuff. Good stuff. Well, this was a blast.
Next year, let's do milkshakes so that it's easier to enjoy the food while we are podcasting.
Sure. Yeah. We can just sip on something, right? Yeah,
sangrias.
That's fun. Yeah, like a boozy milkshake or a fancy ice cream milkshake or something like that. That'd be fun. One with like big cinnamon sticks sticking out the side of it, or who knows what, right? Big ol' a straw wrapped in chocolate, and you did. I don't know.
There's a slice of cake on top of the milkshake. One of those big boys. Yeah. Which have been around for like 10 years. I haven't had one. I would like to have one in my life, even though I know it is cumbersome and a mess and really extravagant and over the top.
Yeah.
I'd like one obnoxious fancy milkshake, please. And then I'll be at peace.
Absolutely. It's a nice treat every now and then. When I came out here to visit before I had moved out here, that's one of the little things that my partner and I did as a date. We're like, let's go get boozy milkshakes, big fancy milkshakes. And we're like, yeah, let's do it. It's good. It's a good time. Good fun indeed. I don't know if I mentioned this on the Captain's Log. I think I may have mentioned it. Well, maybe I didn't. Maybe not.
Would you just mention the thing now, please, instead of remembering if you've mentioned it previously?
I'm gearing up because, Melissa, this is sad news.
Oh!
Sad food-related news. So it's not like our neighbors died again, right? No, it's not that. So I have told the story here on the podcast. We've joked about it plenty of times. How I would spend 4 hours alone in a Chili's by myself, just
Yes.
reading comics, doing my own thing. Well, I heard the news this week that Chili's is finally shutting down. They are
one back in
running,
Virginia.
yeah, the one that I went to.
Oh,
they're
man.
shutting down. So it's a sad day here on the podcast. I can't go back to that Chili's whenever I'm in Richmond to just spend some time. Pour one out for Chili's.
You should call them. Please call that Chili's in its dying days and
Almost
share
just
your memory.
Poured maple syrup all over my desk.
Over your fancy high-end equipment. It's
Right,
been
yeah.
syruped. Which
It's
is
a
the new
sticky
prank
situation.
that YouTubers are doing on each other.
Yeah.
Twitch streamers are sneaking
Syruping
into each
their
other's houses, syruping their
friends.
equipment.
God, I'd be so mad.
You'd have a big ant problem. You
Yeah.
should call that Chili's and tell them what it meant to you. They'll
Right.
either be really touched or really annoyed, but I
Or
think it's
just
worth the gamble.
Really freaked out. Like, why are you telling that? Like, no one who like maybe recognized me as that one kid who stayed there all day still works there at all, right? So they're all just like, we don't know you.
You could have known me.
Yeah, you could have.
That's-
stayed open longer.
This for episode 300 of the Captain's Log. We've talked about this before. I want that to be the one we record live from a Chili's.
Ooh, okay. We'll have to make that work. Maybe that's let's see, what number did I say this one was? Did I say the number at the top
Oh
of the
heck.
screen?
Is it on our
269, I believe.
Yeah,
269.
we wouldn't do this until next year.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's doable. It has
Right.
to be well, no, it could be video if we just bring my camera and record it on the camera. I don't think we could really live stream it unless we use a
No.
crappier camera.
Mm-hmm.
But we could certainly record it at the very least. That'd be easy. Put it up later. But that would give us enough time to plan it out, talk to a Chili's that we could be like, hey, it's an inside joke, but can we get like a booth in the back, like not bothered by anyone else, where we can just
Don't we
like,
want to be
record our-
bothered? Don't we want the sights and sounds of the citizens of Chili's?
Maybe we do. Or we pad it out. We bring like friends and family to some big Chili's party extravaganza, and they can all
Private
chit-chat and
Chili's
stuff,
party,
right? And we're smack dab in the middle, where it's us just trying to record
holding
this
court at
podcast
Chili's
in the middle of all of this, and that way it's not like strangers that we don't know, right? Or stuff like that. Who knows? But that certainly
I do wonder
gives us
if
time to plan.
maybe this isn't new to them and they have had people just casually live streaming from their tables. In the new live streaming TikTok lifestyle, perhaps
They probably
there have been people
but
just recording live from Chili's.
I don't feel like it would be a 2-hour excursion, right? It'd be some like, okay, I'm like I just got the 2 for $20 deal here at Chili's, and wow, this food looks bad. Like, here it is, blah 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 blah, or some like quick minute-long snap, some little.
We
TikTok.
could do. I don't know if Chili's does breakfast, but we could do a progressive
so.
day where we record like 30 minutes at 3 different Chili's. We do like lunch, dinner, and then
do
maybe
the
another
hot
one
dog
for like
ta-
dessert and
tactic.
drinks. Yeah.
The 2-inch hot dog tactic. Yeah.
We just tour various Chili's among the Midwest.
Yeah.
We both live in towns that have Chili's in them. That, as we approach this
Most
date,
people
we'll
do.
see. Well, I don't get out much. I don't know if this is a regional thing where if we go to like the southeast or whatever, they're like, yeah, Chili's died out here years ago. We haven't even heard that name in a long time.
We're an Applebee's town here.
We will compare who has the better Chili's. We'll go through all the Yelp reviews, and that determines who goes to visit who. Or if we have to meet in the middle in Kansas.
Yeah, right. That would be an option too. Go to a neutral Chili's location.
The next table over is like a peace accords are being signed. This is the most neutral territory we could find.
This Chili's is Switzerland. That'd be fun. But no, you have come out here to Oklahoma.
Yes.
I've not been out there to St. Louis, so it would also probably be a good time for me to go out to visit you and see your stomping grounds.
I stomp around so much. I have a jillion things to show you that aren't chain bar and grill Chili's. But I guess it's not the same.
I've done trivia there, and I've done.
It's not as cool. It's not as much of a running joke if we try and record live from an Emo's Pizza.
It'd still be fun, though. Good stuff. Well, I say we take a quick break for some housekeeping. And then when we come back, we have a little bit more. Some pop culture stuff, some movies that we've seen, and something called the CityWalk Saga. I don't know what that is yet, so we'll find out.
Get ready for a whole tale.
Okay, exciting stuff. With that, we will be right back. Thank you so much for checking out this podcast. We hope you're enjoying it. If you didn't know, we make multiple different shows here at the Whatnauts, and a lot of hard work goes into making them, so we would love it if you check them all out. But none of this is possible without your support. Head over to patreon.com/thewhatnauts, and you can get access to over 40 hours of exclusive content, including our Patreon first podcast, The Pilots Club, when you sign up at our $3 tier. Of course, there is a free version of the Pilots Club available, but episodes are exclusive to our Patreon for 2 years before they hit the free feeds. If you're interested in buying merch, we have shirts, hoodies, mugs, and more for sale over at thewhatnauts.com/store. Another great way to help us out is by subscribing and leaving a nice rating and review on your podcasting app of choice. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel for video versions of the show, trailer reactions, and live streams. And lastly, you can always find out more information about the shows we make on our website, thewhatnauts.com. All right, everyone, we are back. A big shout out to all of our Patreon supporters. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We appreciate you. We love you a lot. Over on the Pilots Club, this past month we got to talk about Welcome to Eltingville, but for the month of April 2024, we are talking about Shogun, the new mini-series based off of the novel of the same name. There was also a mini-series of this back in the 1980s. That I did some research on. Apparently it was at the time the most watched mini-series besides Roots. John Rhys Davies is in it. Toshiro Mifune, who's in all of the Kurosawa movies, is in it. So some interesting stuff. But we watched the new one that's on FX and Hulu right now, and we will actually be recording that immediately after this. So be on the lookout for that over on the Pilots Club. However, if you are on the free tier of the Pilots Club, oh god, why I'm never prepared. Doom Patrol is already out. That one's been out. But let's see if I can look up what one is coming out next for April. Let's see here. Oh, I may have gone back a little too far. So we did Eureka, Doom Patrol, and then I believe it is Endgame.
Oh
End
yeah.
Game, which is I guess that reminds me is kind of why I picked Shogun, because I was like, I want to do a show that's coming out now, like when we are making it, and that's what we did for the End Game. So
Yeah.
there you go. That'll be out very shortly, first Friday in April. But let's see what else we got here on housekeeping. Right here on the Captain's Log, last episode we got to talk about what potential bachelor weekends looked like for us. Stuff like OK Soda, which is probably a very bachelor soda. It feels like. Stuff like that. We always hit up to some fun stuff over on the Captain's Log. On the review show, we got to talk about Jordan Peele's movie Us, and we had a blast with that one, trying to decipher it and talk about what we liked with that one. I'm not a horror person, so I don't watch very many horror movies, but I had a good time with this one. Not much currently happening over on the Reactor Core right now, but maybe in the near future here we could do a quick Ghostbusters thing. But I guess we're about to talk about Ghostbusters right now, so we might not do that one. But anyways, that's about it for housekeeping right now. I just mentioned Ghostbusters. Let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
What'd you think of the new Ghostbusters, Melissa?
No strong feelings, but it was nice to see them again.
Sure.
I'm just happy there is a Ghostbusters, and I saw it, and I'm like, my old friends.
Yeah. I
all I
feel
really
kind
needed.
of the same way. It felt very familiar in a very safe way. I feel like the one before this, Ghostbusters Afterlife, was a bigger departure from like the Ghostbusters formula. It's a new location, but they still had all the Easter eggs and references and stuff. And I know when we talked about the Ghostbusters earlier on in the year over on the review show, that was one of the things I mentioned, was like, it felt like, what if Stephen King was to kind of write a Ghostbusters thing? And this
and
one
also, you told him he wasn't
keep that
allowed
up.
to set it in Maine, and he had to pick a different state. And he's like,
Sure, yeah.
fine, I'll use Oklahoma then.
Good. But yeah, no, they're back in New York. They're in the fire. I was about to say fire hydrant, the fire department.
They're in the firehouse. Their big old firehouse.
So yeah, it feels very much like a Ghostbusters film, and I had a good time. I think it's good, clean family fun.
Mm-hmm.
I was also just kind of disappointed that it wasn't kind of some like, all right, you already established yourself here. You can kind of move on from all these Easter eggs and references to the older stuff. Make something new.
I spent a lot of this movie waiting for when things were going to freeze over. The trailers really sell the ice. The ice takes a long time to arrive. I did appreciate that in the first two movies, and the 2016 one as well takes a similar approach, in that ghosts are just silly creatures, or they're bad creatures. But either way, you got to get them. Mm-hmm. And then with Afterlife, after the death of Harold Ramis, now you have the angle of ghosts are also somebody's loved ones. A ghost might be somebody who you miss in your life.
Yeah.
And I did like that this movie had another step in that, where Phoebe does befriend a ghost girl.
Yeah.
And you have a ghost who is more humanoid, can communicate with you, is more of a character and not just a
slime or that,
a monster. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Which raises so many questions about, like, was Slimer a guy once?
Yeah. Yeah. Who was
if you're
Slimer?
A ghost for too long, do you devolve into Slimer form?
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, enjoyed it though, but I don't have much else to say
Right, there's stuff I
on it
liked. I had
beyond
a
that. Yeah,
fine time, but yeah,
yeah,
oh.
absolutely, absolutely. Uh, Melissa, you also caught up on a couple shows.
Yes. I have Apple TV Plus again. Apple TV Plus is the one subscription I turn on and off because it's the one that I don't think it has profile options, so I don't share it with anybody else. The way like my Netflix sustains also my brother, so I have to keep it, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
So Apple TV Plus is the one I let myself come and go on. And since I just renewed it, I finally circled back around and finished some shows that I had started last time I had it, which was the last handful of episodes in Drops of God, the show
Mhm.
based on the competitive sommelier manga we read once,
Yeah,
which is a very pleasant show. I do like it.
I
It's
loved
just
it.
got
Yeah,
very low stakes and it isn't like exceptionally compelling.
I
And
don't
it
know.
does have like it became more compelling as it went on. And I think the fact that it does have these multiple challenges in it, where
Mhm.
there'll be almost like a 2 episode arc, did make it easy to set down for a little
Right.
while
Yeah,
and then come back to, which might be a perk for somebody. Maybe they're like, I need very modular TV that I can watch in like 2 or 3 episodes at a time and then come back.
yeah. I think for me with that show, I was very surprised at it. I thought it was fantastic. I don't think it's like the next big hit show, but it was really solid. Um,
You really learn a lot. Yeah.
and I think compared to the manga, it's enough of a departure that everything felt new, but also not so much of a departure that like you're like, oh, you're completely ignoring the manga and
Right. Or
stuff like
you
that.
just took the name and applied it to something else. No, it
Right?
is like
Yeah,
it is an adaptation. You can see what they liked and what they kept and what they evolved.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I thought that was a solid show, and I think
Yeah,
the creator of that show just signed on to some TV deal. I don't know if it was with Apple or
huh.
Max. I forget. It was one of those two, but he got signed on to like an exclusive deal, like the next 3 shows he makes, or who knows what. Um,
Oh,
but yeah, so
interesting.
good news for him.
I also finished watching Servant. We watched season
Yeah,
1 of Servant on the review show Halloween before last, I think.
how was that?
That show, it concluded in 4 seasons. I think that 4th season aired sometime last year.
Okay.
The actress who plays the nanny is in this new Omen prequel, which
Mm,
I've been curious about. So I thought before I see that, let me finish out Servant, kind of fill out some of her career a bit. I love Servant. Servant is so haunting and so heartbreaking and such a tough sell that I
yeah.
understand why people aren't talking about Servant. I understand why it is a tough watch, but it is really impressive. The show remains as small as it was when we were watching it in season 1.
Good.
It's still primarily like one brownstone and 4 people and a baby. In season 3, they tell you that if you open the back gate, there's a park back there.
Mm,
And that's as much as the show ever expands. It adds one park. Sometimes you are on the street outside of the brownstone and not just
yeah.
within its walls.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah, that is one I feel like I would eventually go back to. I just haven't yet. And it's
I
not
do
super
recommend
high
it.
up on my priority list though.
Right, because it's a show nobody's talking about, so you don't feel
It was
compelled
great
to
though.
keep up with. Yeah, well, you don't feel the need to keep up with people where you're like, oh, I'm going to go to this party and everybody's going to ask me what I thought of the last episode of The Bear or whatever. Nobody's going to bring up. Did you
Right.
see the
Yeah.
last horrifying episode of the
And
creepy nanny show, Servant?
that's what's so wild because I had a social media post get some traction like a month ago, and I was basically saying like, hey, if you think Apple TV's only good shows are Servant and God, what was the soccer one, the comedy one that everyone
Oh, Ted
liked.
Lasso.
Ted Lasso. Yeah, it's like if you think those are the only two good
I mean,
shows that Apple TV has, like you're not paying attention because they have some great stuff,
right.
and
But
everyone
did you
was
mean to
like,
say Severance earlier? Like
yes,
like people think Apple TV Plus is only for Severance and Ted Lasso.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah. And I was like, man, there's this show, there's that show, there's this, and
Yeah,
there's
there's gems on there.
so many people were like, yeah, that show is fantastic, or this show is great. Have you seen this one? Their sci-fi is top notch, like all of this stuff. And then of course there were the ones who was like, because it's true, those are the only two good shows. And it's like, well, have you seen any of the other ones? And yeah, like no, I haven't heard about any new. It's like, well, exactly, you're not paying attention.
There's not bandwidth for you to be able to hear about everything that is good.
Yeah, but there's some of their shows are absolutely stellar and just have no marketing. Period. And it's just like,
yeah,
why? This could be like huge. But
maybe it doesn't need it. Like Servant ended very neatly in 4 seasons. Like it seemed like it always had exactly what it needed to tell its story.
Sure. Yeah. Indeed.
We are getting that show's executive produced by M. Night Shyamalan and his daughter, who took the family name. She is Shauna Night Shyamalan. She also is a producer and writes and directs some episodes. And
that's cool.
I really liked her work on it. The show is impressive all around, especially with how limited it is, like purposefully. You're not playing with a lot of settings or performers or subplots. It's got a pretty limited palette. And watching what all these different directors did with that challenge was pretty cool. How many different ways they can find to film the one home that the show takes place in. Every new angle on that staircase. But I liked her stuff especially. And
cool.
I am excited for her feature film debut later this year with The Watchers.
Cool. Good stuff. I also went to go see the new Godzilla X Kong: The New Empire this weekend, or on Friday night. And I had an absolute blast.
It sounds fun.
Here's the thing. It is so much fun. It is incredible. I think it might be my favorite of the MonsterVerse movies. But I also don't know if I would really say it's a good movie.
That's fine.
Right? Yeah, but like it's so much fun. I laughed at stuff I was not expecting to laugh at. It's so bright and colorful. Just a whole bunch of like neons and stuff. It's pretty to look at, and so you truly are entertained the whole time. And we were in like a full packed theater to say this, and the people sitting next to me, normally I would have been like, can you guys shut up? Because they were kind of talking through a lot of it, but they weren't talking to like disrupt or ignore the movie. They were talking because they were into it. They loved it. They were like and not in the like, no, don't go, but behind that door he'll get you. Like not that stuff. They were still like talking amongst themselves, but you could hear them. But they were just having a blast. And so I was like, you know what? I'm gonna let you have your like movie magic moment here. Because it was just big dumb fun, and it was a blast. So highly recommend
gotta have that.
Going to check it out.
Yeah, that is a movie that I know would be best enjoyed in a theater.
Oh yeah.
Like what? Like if you're waiting until it's free on streaming, you're gonna have a far lesser experience than if you just paid for it.
Yeah.
Which there is a deal that AMC Theaters has where you can buy their A-list stubs membership for $1 the first month. And then it's $20 the next month, but you only have to like commit to 3 months. So for $41, you could see like all of these movies over a 3-month period.
Yeah.
Which I might take them up on. That's not my usual chain, but it's not out of the way for me to do.
Yeah.
And that would be a great use of it.
We do a similar thing for our theaters, their version of that. We just so happen to have one that's like right next to our house, so we can go to that one a lot.
The AMC theater is the one closest to my house, but I've got like the theater chain I've got the most brand loyalty to is the one that has no kind of like pass like that. So
yeah.
But I refuse to change loyalties to a theater that does have a pass. I've got a rewards. Fandango is really good where if you buy 4 tickets on Fandango, they'll give you a $5 reward. So you can rack up those rewards like very quickly. Yeah. That's how I save most of my money buying so many movie tickets is constant Fandango rewards.
Yeah. Ours gives us like rewards points, and we can like get free small popcorns or small sodas, or you can get like if you get a medium, you can get a free upgrade. They have like discounts on tickets. Sometimes you can even get a free ticket if you have enough points. But the points also expire after a certain bit, so you do kind of have to use them. But yeah, I mean, we've like walked into the theater for tickets that we only paid like $1 convenience fee for. Bought our concession, which was like 2 small sodas and a small popcorn, paid $0, and like walked in, and it's like, this is awesome. This is so good. So fun.
I love the movies.
Yeah, it's great.
Are you going to the Phantom Menace re-release in May? The like 25th anniversary of Phantom Menace?
Probably not.
I didn't see it in theaters the first time. It seems fun to see once in my life. Yeah.
Yeah. I know they're also re-releasing all the Spider-Man movies in theaters.
That too.
I checked I'm interested in, but also like I don't need to. I went to go see them in theaters when it first came out. I've seen those movies a bunch of times. I don't know. Maybe I'll go see something else instead. There's a new Gundam movie coming out. Maybe I'll do that.
I am curious what the current day reaction is to the dance scene in Spider-Man 3. If it's reached some sort of level of ironic or ironic enjoyment where people clap and cheer. What noises will people make when he dance?
Memed to hell, yeah. Do you see them all go like, ah?
Everybody's...
Just everyone in the theater lifts their arms up and starts to
I'd love to. I'll go for that. Audience participation Spider-Man 3.
Yeah. Oh man, good stuff. Yes, go see Godzilla X Kong. It was a blast. But Melissa, you have a whole saga, CityWalk Saga.
Yes.
To talk to me about. What is this?
It isn't mine. Get ready. I'm going to describe a whole series of Podcast The Ride episodes to you.
Okay.
Podcast The Ride, as previously mentioned, it is a comedy show about theme parks. It's my very favorite podcast. It's the podcast where I am on every single level of the Patreon. If they invent new levels, I have to join immediately because I refuse to let anything of this content slip through my fingers. I have to have every piece of this.
They're the ones like, and to our top sponsors, Melissa Wilkinson, well, on every episode.
No, we don't get named specifically. I'm just part of the Clifford Army. This show has been running since like 2017, I think. Mm-hmm. And they talk about theme parks of all kinds. Each episode's like a specific attraction or some part of it. They get really specific into the ephemera around theme parks. They have whole episodes about parking garages.
Yeah, and hot dogs.
It's yeah, and adjacent things, like not just theme parks, but like anything
The
with
whole
that extravagant
encompassing
level.
experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Anything with that extravagant level of theming, like restaurants and shopping malls and the casinos, anything on that touristy level. And early on, they joked about how specific they were getting, even in the early days. And they're like, yeah, we're going to do a 19-part series on everything you can find in Universal Studios CityWalk outside of Universal Studios Florida, which is just the street leading up to the theme park that's got shops and restaurants and things in it. And they made good on that promise. And in 2018, they did a 19-part, every day for 19 straight days. They released an episode about Universal Studios CityWalk. They called it the CityWalk Saga. It had its own theme song.
That's kind of wild.
And they divided CityWalk into different sectors. And they talk about one sector an episode. That would be like this little patch of like shops or restaurants or a movie theater or whatever. And they were watched over by the sector keeper, who is a Casper the Friendly Ghost like entity, who is the ghost of a little boy who died in the CityWalk fountains in the 90s.
Poor thing.
And he's like, boys, you have to talk about CityWalk, and you will collect the CityWalk stones, and you will unite them, and then I can pass on to the other side. Boys, you give me strength.
You must
so
avenge me.
It's these three adult men. It's Scott and Mike and Jason and Ghost Boy the Sector Keeper, who was a character played by like one of their comedy friends. And they go through sector by sector. The sector keeper will stop you if like they have a guest who comes on and they want to talk about this thing. And they're like, no, you're talking about lids today. You're assigned only lids. You don't talk about what's outside of your sector. And at the end of every episode, they'd get a sector stone and then they had to collect them all and free the sector keeper.
That's fun.
And there's one episode where the sector is the food court, which is just like, it's called like City Dine or whatever. And it's little stalls that are just chains, like a KFC, a Panda Express, a Firehouse Subs or whatever. And in this original series, there's like a 4-minute episode where the sector keeper gathers the boys. And he's like, today's sector is this. You don't really have to talk about it. We can skip. It's just a food court. We can skip this one. They went on to do the Downtown Disney Ordeal, which was another daily, like 19-part series about everything in the shopping and dining district outside of Disneyland.
Why can I ask why 19? Does that number have some kind of significance?
It was a joke originally. Oh, we'll talk about this in 19 whole episodes, and they just kept to that, like literally. I forget exactly how many episodes the Downtown Disney Ordeal was, but it's around that.
I gotcha.
They just do a lot, like weeks. Again, every single day, they will release an episode about this. And the episode might be 40 minutes long, or it might be 2.5 hours long.
Yeah.
They could talk about a single Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville for 2.5 hours. We're getting that deep.
It'd be kind of interesting to then know like the history of the shops and what has been there in that location.
Yes.
And
Fallen Brothers. They do episodes about the Fallen Brothers.
Yeah. The mystery of the Sbarro's pizza that used to be in the food court, but now it's not, and what happened. And
that is literally what they do.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. The lore is all here. They had implemented a Patreon by the time they got to the Downtown Disney Ordeal. So you would fall through the sector and into secret hidden sectors you could only get on the Patreon. And there they would talk about the Fallen Brothers. Their latest series, they just concluded, is the CityWalk Saga, Multiverse of Madness. This is about the CityWalk outside of Universal Studios Orlando. So these LA boys had to travel to do their research on this CityWalk Saga. It is called Multiverse of Madness, and they structured the thing like it is a multiverse crumbling movie.
Okay.
Where there's different planes of existence. there's jump points, there's alternate dimensions. For some businesses, they have to talk about both the alpha and omega versions. Where, like, if this big restaurant has opened up in both city walks, they must talk about both. Sector Keeper arrives and it's like, boys, you have to go through the jump point and talk about Toothsome's Chocolate Factory Omega in Hollywood as well. You must do both, boys. At one point, the universe collapses and we're sent into an alternate dimension where all three hosts each have their own individual podcast about specific things at CityWalk. Like, the regular podcast never existed, and Scott Garner has just been doing a podcast about the Cirque du Soleil show regularly for years.
That's funny.
So they fall apart, then they must come back together. And at one point, something like the universe is crumbling around them. And let me remind you, this is not a narrative podcast. This is not a scripted podcast. This is firmly within the guys sit around and bullshit for a couple hours genre of podcast. But they just get so ridiculously into, we've invented this lore. We have a ghost child. we have different dimensions we're navigating. We have to collect all these mystical objects.
It's like McRib Sterling.
Yes. At one point, the Sector Keeper arrives and is like, you have to go back, boys. You have to go back. When they reach the sector that is the food court. And what happens is you then need to go back to the 4-minute episode they released in 2018, where the Sector Keeper was first like, it's okay, boys, you can skip the food court. If you download it again now it is an episode that is an hour and a half long, where the boys and the Sector Keeper from this timeline, they have to go back and tell their original selves, no, if you do this, it breaks the multiverse. You must talk about the Panda Express. Nothing can be skipped.
That's clever. Just like re-upload the audio file from their end. Tell no one. Be like, yeah, guys actually have to go back now.
I have never heard of a podcast doing this. For a non-narrative bullshit podcast,
that would be
they're doing something really
for
inventive.
An audio drama.
And the fact that it isn't is what makes it better.
Yeah.
They could just sit around and talk about Space Mountain for an hour, but no, they're doing this instead. Where it's these 4 guys who are playing against themselves, like, hi, 2018 Jason here. Well, hello, it's me, 2024 Jason. And there's been this running bit throughout this series where at one point Mike said, the Flash isn't as bad as you've heard it is. And Scott's completely incredulous. Like, what do you mean it's not as bad as people have heard it is? Do you like it? And he's like, no, I don't like it. It's just not, like, people are treating it like a disaster and it's not good, but it's not that bad. And he's like, no, you're wrong. I think this movie's terrible. I turned it on. I couldn't finish it. So they don't name this. They don't point at this. But they've been doing the running bit arguing about the Flash, and then they do this episode that is the same conceit as the Flash, where the universe is collapsing, and you have to go back and talk to your past self and get him to not make this certain mistake.
Yeah. Great.
And then for the finale, this lasted, if you include all 3 Splinter episodes on the day when the 3 hosts did their own individual podcasts, this one was 24 episodes long. In the finale, they have their friend Nick Weiger on, co-host of the podcast Doughboys, another dumb comedy podcast I've yelled at you about in the past. He always comes on and only talks about the parking garages. That's their bit. He's relegated exclusively to parking garages outside of theme parks. And he's always what caps off one of these series. The final episode is Nick Weiger comes on and talks about the parking garage attached to this mall. But for this one, he comes on the episode and they're like, but Nick, you've never, like, you're from LA. Like, if you go to Orlando, you didn't rent a car. Like, you've never actually experienced this parking garage, have you? And he's like, no, I can just talk about the LA Orlando parking garage and like what I know about the Orlando parking garage. And they're like, well, Nick, we have an experimental program for you, similar to Avatar. We have somebody waiting in Orlando right now. We can do an Avatar uplink and you will take over this person. And then this was a video episode that you were able to get on the highest tier of the Patreon. Absolutely worth the money. Where they have some acquaintance of theirs who's in Orlando come up just like on FaceTime. And they do this whole bit where like he is Nick Weiger's proxy. He is his avatar. And he's like, Nick, where should I go? What direction should I walk, Nick? You have to tell me to keep walking, Nick.
Take 5 steps forward, turn left, and take 2 steps. Kneel down, and then look at.
They are able to finally live go through the parking garage experience.
That's
halfway
so dumb,
through
but it's
walking
great.
walking out of CityWalk, they pass a popsicle stand and they make that guy stop and buy a popsicle. They make him do a pressed penny machine.
You need
and
a
then
souvenir.
This episode, the episode ends with the sector keeper coming to them, and he's like, "You've restored time. The universe is safe, but there's one more rift. There's a rift where boys can go back in time again." And then it does become almost like an audio drama where the boys go back in time and they see little sector keeper as a living boy playing in the fountains where he drowned and he became the ghost known as the sector keeper. They save his life. He lives. He grows up to be just a man named Stephen Kepler. And like they go find his address, him as an adult, and they knock on the door. And they're like, "Hey, we think we used to know you." And he's just a normal adult man. And he's like, "No, I've never seen you men before in my life. You must be mistaken. Have a nice day." And then you hear him yell at his 3 children, like, "Michael, Scott, Jason, you boys all sit down."
Their father, yeah.
No, it's like he did not know these men, but they've made a mark on his life, and he has named his handful of 3 sons after these hosts. It's so silly, but it's weirdly brilliant. Touching there at the end. And I needed to come on here and explain this to you. This is the highest art that I have encountered in non-narrative podcasting. You've got your audio fiction. You've got something like a docuseries like a Serial or whatever. But in the guys bullshitting genre of podcasting, this is some of the most remarkable work I have ever heard. It's not just these guys are funny. They did something really creative. Like they are really stretching the limits of what the form of podcasting is in a way that I hope is remembered and remarked upon. Like if in the future you could take a podcast studies course, I hope there's a week that you spend on the CityWalk Sagas.
Now, for someone like me or whoever else, like a year from now or 2 years from now, if they were to play the old episodes in chronological order, do they have it now set up that they have like, hey, you can listen to the original like food court episode and then you can go to the next one, but then you can go back and hear like there's a second version of it?
What I think it is that the 2024 guys broke in right at the end of that little 4-minute episode. So you would, if you download it now, you would still hear all the original audio. Okay. But then at the end, you just suddenly have duplicates of everybody storming in saying, "No, it's your kids, Marty. Something's gonna be done about your kids." Like,
so it still fits in sequence. It's not like you're missing out on the original.
No, it's originally there, but now suddenly there's a weird flash forward where the guys come and yell at you from 6 years in the future.
That's great. That's honestly brilliant.
I I was laughing so hard. And thank goodness I was like the only person in my department who actually went into the office that day. I could not have done that around other people.
That's fun though. That's fun. Good stuff. Good stuff. Good stuff. Cool. Well, I think that may wrap us up for this week's podcast. So yeah, Melissa, where can the people find you on the internet?
You can find me places at Wilkie Wit if you want to. I went to a Podcast the Ride live show in Chicago in 2018, and I was interviewed by some local Chicago arts magazine that was doing a profile on that show.
That's
and like
cool.
the comedy festival it was a part of. I'm not named, and I don't know the name of this magazine anymore, but you can find a quote from me somewhere in some article about Podcast the Ride. I have a screenshot of it somewhere.
There you go. We'll give a no prize out to anyone who can send Melissa a copy of the magazine. Good stuff. If you guys want to follow me, I am at Yo Kyle Springer. And if you would like to stay up to date with all of the stuff that we do here at the Whatnauts, we are at the Whatnauts official on Threads. So please go like, share, and subscribe. That would help us out a ton. If you're watching this on YouTube, go check out more of our videos right over there on that side of the screen. That would also help us out a ton. And yeah, this has been number 269 of the Whatnauts Captain's Log. We will see you all next time. Bye.
Bye.